welcome back to LexTalk World Talk Show presented by ClickAway Creators. Today we have Mr. Kartik Gupta with us. Kartik is a financial legal expert with nearly 2 decades of transnational experience, having worked in Asia, Europe, and America. As a certified fraud examiner, certified valuation analyst, and internationally trained lawyer and an accountant too, Kartik has deep understanding of business operations, regulatory requirements, and the applicable legislative framework during a business's life cycle. Kartik is really passionate about ADR and has worked and assisted as an expert on numerous international commercial arbitration matters. He has significant experience in providing strategic advice to legal counsels and CXOs in matters relating to dispute advisory, fraud, and international regulatory compliance. I have a lot when it comes to Kartik with his experience of nearly 2 decades. I can go on and on, but I think I should just give him the screen time now. So without any further ado, let me just introduce you to the man himself, Mr. Kartik Gupta. Hello, Kartik. How are you?
Hi, Bharti. Doing well. How about you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you for asking. So, Kartik, besides being a lawyer, I see you have several other designations, right?
Right.
Could you please elaborate on one of the key areas of your expertise?
Sure. Thanks for noticing that, Bharti. Yes, I do hold several designations apart from my law degree, each of which complement the unique areas of my work and assist in offering a more holistic set of services to my clients. Most, if not all of my clients, trust and value my advice, and I believe knowledge, experience, and credentials play a big role in building that trust. I'm often consulted and appointed by lawyers, their clients, or tribunals and courts to act as independent quantum expert and assess damages in disputes or ascertain the value of underlying assets in particular cases. And so I picked up several designations along the way that would complement my skill set and add credibility to my work. So to answer your questions, beside being a lawyer, I am a fellow chartered accountant, a certified fraud examiner, a certified business valuator from the US, a member of the prestigious Chartered Institute of Securities and Investments based in England. Oh, and not to forget, I just qualified as a qualified arbitrator in Canada. I would also like to add, having practiced as a forensic and quantum expert on dispute matters over the better part of my 17 years of career, I work with numerous law firms and multinational clients across several international jurisdictions, assisting them on matters as big as several $billion or small as a few hundred thousands in terms of assessed value of losses or damages.
Thank you so much, Kartik. But first things first, congratulations on getting qualified as an arbitrator in Canada. That's absolutely amazing. And finally, hard work has paid off.
Yes.
At the same time, quite impressive as a profile. I mean, 17 years you've been in the industry. While we are on this topic, while we're discussing your journey and everything and your roles, could you please elaborate more on the role of a quantum expert and what makes for a good quantum expert testimony?
Of course. As an expert, I have the duty to the tribunal or the court, and it's my role to provide an independent assessment of the value of the claim or the asset in dispute. Generally, an expert would give valuations based on both parties' positions in order to assist the tribunal to come to a reasoned conclusion. However, that's seldom the case, as more often than not, an expert would be instructed by one of the parties to present their case as effectively as possible. Well, unless it's a joint appointment or the expert is appointed by the tribunal or the court. In that case, you do have to present both the sides. To answer the second part of your question, a good quantum expert testimony is all about preparation. An expert ought to be intimately familiar with his report, which besides the value assessment generally includes the pleaded case, the facts, the assumptions, and the opinions, again, of oneself and the other consulting expert on the file as well. In fact, I often familiarize myself with the opposing expert's report in detail in order to be better prepared for the likely line of questioning by the opposing counsel. Something that I've learned in my years of experience in working in this area is that an effective quantum expert is not just the deliverer of facts, but is also a persuasive storyteller. framing their findings into a compelling narrative. I would like to add that the art of answering questions is equally important for an expert. Short, crisp, to the point answers that are based on facts are always a delight for the decision makers, as opposed to long, winded, technically heavy answers that perhaps requires another expert to decipher what you just explained to the tribunal.
Beautifully put, Kartik. Beautifully explained, rather. Thank you. Thank you so much for answering that question. Now, from past like 2 years, like more than 2 years now, we have seen the pandemic basically has seen a lot of courts moving towards remote proceedings and availability. According to you, this change basically, is this like sustainable and a possible way to increase the access to justice? Uh, I'm sure I've asked this question to a lot of people and I've gotten different answers. And I'm really looking forward to yours as well.
No, absolutely. I think the legal field has come to age because of COVID. One of the exceptional, and I would add a positive outcome of the pandemic was the accessibility, I would say the acceptability of remote access to work, knowledge, and in the spirit of this question, remote access to justice. Mandatory lockdowns in the initial phase of the pandemic paralyzed the judicial system across the world, not just India. As the pandemic lingered, the restrictions continued far beyond the expectations, and courts were compelled to rethink the conventional approach to justice, that is, in-person courts or proceedings. So to restart the legal system and restore access to judicial proceedings, many countries, including India and abroad, like for Canada, for example, have deployed secured virtual platforms that enable remote court proceedings and availability. In fact, in my experience working on cases in the past 2 years in Canada, I believe that virtual proceedings have made significant progress, increasing access to justice. Clients now have the option to engage with experienced professionals across geographical barriers, which would have precluded them before the pandemic. This has also increased the market competition, resulting in more cost-effective access to justice, which I believe was somewhat unavailable pre-pandemic era, right? People can now access court proceedings in the most remote corners. And I think that's a very, very big advantage, given they have access to affordable communication, which so happens to be one of the major barriers in sustainable access to justice. So I think we do need to work a little bit on the affordability of communications across the world, Canada being exceptions. One of the key drivers for remote proceedings and availability is adequate and affordable access to communication, which, if not available, will definitely impede the success and sustainability of remote access to justice. So to answer the second part of your question, is it sustainable? I would say definitely, with a couple of caveats. One, there is adequate access to affordable communication. And two, perhaps the most important, the ability to overcome the most innate human need to interact with one another in person.
Thank you so much, Kartik. And definitely, I do not regret asking you this question because I got a different, really different perspective. So again, thank you very much. But now, when we are talking about all of this, you are into finance, you are into legal industry. You have been there for like 17 years. But now, since technology is taking over a lot of things, and it has, especially in the pandemic, what are the most commonly used tools for you? In both ways. I mean, you're a finance expert, you're a legal expert. So in both ways, what are the tools that you use the most?
Sure. So I'll probably elaborate a little more on the legal text tools that I usually use. So some of the legal text tools that we have become quite familiar, and honestly, as experts, using during the pandemic have been video conferencing tools, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Google Meet, Cisco, and the video conferencing list goes on. And I'm not going to take more time to elaborate on those. However, I would like to talk about is a direction in which the legal technology has headed in terms of e-discovery and the AI-powered investigative softwares. I think over the past few years, I worked with different e-discovery platforms and AI-based investigative tools. And what I found are two softwares that I like to work with and recommend to most of my clients. One is Relativity, and the other one is Power BI. I'm sure most of the viewers would be familiar with Relativity. It's an e-discovery platform that assists lawyers through the digital discovery process. And I think it's coming up more and more, given that the court proceedings are moving to a virtual setting. I've assisted several clients using this particular platform, which is Relativity. Once you have the documents digitized, you can search and identify relevant documents with Relativities on this platform. I'm also quite impressed about its AI capabilities, which they've, I think, recently introduced, which make the process faster than manually searching through thousands or millions of documents in one go. The other tool that I was talking about, which is Power BI, it's a machine learning investigative software, which we kind of use quite often on forensic investigative engagements for our clients. This software kind of expedites the investigative process. Part of the process, and it really keeps the cost low for the clients. So if they're working under a budget constraint, I think I always suggest my clients that let's go for Power BI.
Interesting that you mentioned AI-based investigations and e-discovery tools. Can you please also elaborate more on your expertise in this area and what kind of excites you the most about these tools, especially when you said, okay, you recommend Power BI to most of your clients. I would love to hear about that.
Sure, absolutely. We at Panaya Consulting have extensive experience working with these tools. We have access to the full suite of services with both Relativity and Power BI. So Power BI in particular is a self-learning software, and it has the capabilities of both tools have the capabilities to basically reduce the man hours and keep the costs in control on any particular engagement. However, as the case with most technology, it is essential that we have an experienced and knowledgeable driver at the helm, effectively navigating through the process. So AI-powered tools are nice to have, but you need to have someone who's directing the AI-powered tool to go in the right direction, to tell it where to look into. So since the tools require huge amounts of raw data, and expert, often forensic accountants, are required to navigate and analyze this data, provide intermittent instructions to the software, and then review and interpret the results that are coming out from the software. So I've assisted several clients on several files, combing through millions of documents. In fact, the most recent file that I've been working on was one in British Columbia in Canada. And we've just finished the process of combing through over 1.5 million documents through Power BI and Relativity. And we've done this in approximately 3 weeks of time. It wouldn't be possible for a team of, I would say, in excess of 10 people to be able to do that. So as I said, each file is unique in regards to the mandate. And I love the process of piecing together the puzzle that illustrates the story behind each case. And again, depending on how the case is, what the dispute is, I would highly recommend Relativity and Power BI to all my clients.
Thanks, Kartik, for throwing light on this. But also, you said that your work got done in less than 3 weeks. But if I may ask that, how much time does it usually take?
If I go without the tool or with the tool?
Without the tool.
Without the tool, I would say, let's say a team of 10 professionals combing through 1.5 million documents, I would say about 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really time saving.
It does.
And convenient, of course.
And convenient and costly.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. So talking about time, it's money in any profession, and in legal, of course, it's most of all. How do you ensure that you make the best of your time?
I totally agree with your statement. Time indeed is money. So in order to effectively use my time, I start with the basics. The general, maintaining a to-do list, using time management tools, etc. I think everybody does that. But to maximize my productivity, I usually follow the 80-20 rule. And this has tremendously helped me over the years to prioritize my tasks and efforts. I've basically grown to realize that I spend about 80% of my time in activities that produce low to nil revenues, yielding around 20% productivity. So I started to focus on the other 20% of my time that would maximize my productivity, and I could effectively use that time to generate 80% of the revenues. Having said that, something that I often do, and I'm sure there will be conflicting views on this, is strategically choose the amount of work that I accept. I maintain a tight schedule, and I often end up referring long-term clients to colleagues, given my availability and timeline in question, rather than client. And so a big part of my work, I would say, or time management, is to be able to say no to my clients. If I cannot do justice to the work that is being given to me by my clients, I'd rather say no to the work and risk a strong long-term relationship with the client than taking on the work and not doing the work as my client would require it to be done. So at the end of the day, that my clients appreciate my honesty, and I do believe there is tremendous value in a good referral. So, well, I think in the end, I'd say just don't bite more than you can chew.
Absolutely. As we say that it's money is power, but then it's more powerful to say no to it. Right?
Absolutely.
It gives you more power. So on that note, thank you so much, Kartik, for sharing such great insights with us. It has always been lovely talking to you, and as it was today, we really look forward to having a chat with you again on some other trending topics in the legal space, and in the international legal fraternity. But for our viewers, if you like this chat with Kartik, please like and share this video, and also please do not forget to subscribe to Clickaway Creators YouTube channel to appreciate what we do. And at the same time, you have more coming from industry legal leaders like Kartik himself. So thank you so much, Kartik. Once again, it was lovely having you on board with us, and looking forward to meet you in Singapore.
Thank you, Bhati. It was a pleasure being here, and absolutely love this conversation.
Thank you.
The time.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kartik. And for our viewers, this is Bharti for LexTalk signing off. Take care. Bye-bye.